a device proven to cut attic temperatures by 37 degrees Fahrenheit and reduce cooling bills by nearly 15%. Zero electricity, zero electronics, zero moving infrastructure. Standard on rooftops across America and Australia just decades ago. Today, you will not find a single one on a new build. This is the story of the turbine ventilator and why it vanished. Long before electricity, entire civilizations shaped their buildings to capture natural airflow and keep interiors cool. In the ancient city of Yazd, tall wind catchers known as badgers rose above the rooftops, their open faces aimed at the prevailing breeze. These towers funneled wind down vertical shafts, driving fresh air into shaded rooms and pushing hot air out through high vents. The effect was so strong that even on windless days, the temperature inside could be dozens of degrees lower than the blistering streets outside. Across the world in China, Buddhist monks carved narrow shafts into the roofs of Tang Dynasty cave temples. Warm air rising from sun-baked rock escaped upward, pulling cooler air from shaded entrances below, a natural convection cycle that made deep stone chambers surprisingly comfortable. These early solutions relied on the same basic principles, harnessing pressure differences, wind, and rising heat to move air without any mechanical help. Over centuries, cultures refined these designs, proving that with careful engineering, even the harshest climates could be tamed using nothing but physics and a clever vent. The idea that a simple rooftop device could cool a home without fuel or wires was not a modern invention. It was a lesson learned and relearned, every time people faced heat with only air and ingenuity. Coal mines of the 18th and 19th centuries posed a deadly challenge: how to keep air moving deep underground where natural drafts failed. Engineers turned to steam, building massive fans powered by furnaces and later by engines, just to force fresh air into tunnels and pull toxic gases out. The same principle soon appeared above ground. In 1857, David Boswell Reid, a Scottish physician and engineer, designed steam-driven ventilation for hospitals and military barracks. Reid's blueprints called for a central fan, spun by steam, pushing clean air through a maze of ducts into patient wards. His goal was to control temperature and humidity, believing fresh air could fight disease. These mechanical systems were powerful but expensive, noisy, and always hungry for fuel. The complexity and cost of powered ventilation in public buildings and industrial sites set a new expectation: effective airflow on demand, regardless of weather. But for ordinary homes, the search continued for something simpler: a way to exhaust heat and stale air without engines, wires, or constant maintenance. This growing technological pressure would soon drive inventors to look for a rooftop solution that could work for everyone, powered only by wind and temperature. In the summer of 1910, Samuel Ewart filed a patent for a device that would become the ancestor of the modern Whirlybird. His invention was officially recorded as U.S. Patent 979,390A, and it was granted that December. It described a rooftop cowl with a series of curved, ogee-shaped blades. These blades, set in a ring and cone assembly, were designed to spin freely in the wind, capturing even the faintest breeze and using it to draw hot air up and out of attic spaces. Ewart's blueprint showed a single rotating head mounted over a roof opening, with each blade's distinctive dual concavity engineered to both catch the wind and funnel air efficiently across the next vane. The patent did not stop at attic cooling. Ewart also envisioned his device as a solution for chimney downdrafts, using the same spinning action to block gusts from pushing smoke back into the home. The mechanical simplicity of Ewart's design, relying on nothing but wind and smart geometry, laid the groundwork for a century of passive ventilation technology. Later inventors would cite his work as the foundational reference, but it was Ewart's 1910 blueprint that first captured the idea of using a rooftop turbine to harness natural forces for everyday comfort. Attics in sun-baked climates can reach 150 degrees Fahrenheit, turning the space above a ceiling into a thermal reservoir that radiates down for hours after sunset. Builders and engineers have long searched for ways to tame this thermal load, and the turbine ventilator is a study in how simple physics can be harnessed to solve a stubborn problem. 3 natural forces drive every successful Whirlybird: Bernoulli's Principle, the stack effect, and the Venturi effect. When wind sweeps over the curved blades, it speeds up, lowering the pressure above the vent, just as Bernoulli described in the 18th century. This pressure drop creates suction, pulling hot air up and out. Meanwhile, the stack effect comes into play. As attic air heats up and becomes lighter than the cooler air outside, it rises naturally, creating a gentle upward push even on still days. The Venturi effect adds a final boost. As air is forced through the narrow throat of the spinning turbine, it accelerates further, deepening the pressure difference and increasing the exhaust flow. Each of these forces works together, allowing a rooftop turbine to move air without a single watt of electricity. The Department of Energy has cited a rule of thumb. Every degree the attic warms can raise a home's cooling load by up to 4%. In the right conditions, a well-placed turbine can make a measurable difference, though the effect depends on wind, attic size, and installation quality. The turbine is an elegant machine, built on enduring principles, but its real-world impact always comes down to how well these invisible forces are put to work. Independent field tests in coastal San Diego delivered the most striking numbers ever recorded for a simple rooftop turbine. In a series of summer trials, researchers documented attic temperatures dropping by as much as 37 degrees Fahrenheit when a turbine ventilator was paired with a radiant barrier. The effect was strongest in homes with low insulation and direct sun exposure, where the combination of wind-driven exhaust and reflective foil cut peak attic heat from over 150 degrees Fahrenheit to the low 110 degrees Fahrenheit range. Utility bills told a similar story. Homes in the study saw average cooling electricity use fall by 14.6% over a single season. These results were not just theoretical, they were measured across multiple attics, with wind speeds in the 5 to 10 miles per hour range, the sweet spot for turbine performance. Proper sizing proved essential. A standard 12-inch turbine moved about 250 to 350 cubic feet of air per minute at 5 miles per hour wind, while a 14-inch unit could reach 500 cubic feet per minute under the same conditions. In these ideal setups, the synergy between radiant barriers and wind-powered exhaust turned the attic from a heat trap into a buffer, sharply reducing the load on air conditioning systems. These numbers represent the high watermark for passive cooling with zero electricity, real evidence that, under the right circumstances, the humble Whirlybird delivers exactly as promised. Independent researchers have tested turbine ventilators under controlled conditions, looking for evidence beyond the dramatic field results. The Air Infiltration and Ventilation Center, AIVC, ran a detailed study on a typical single-family home with a 12-inch turbine. Their findings were clear. The addition of a turbine increased attic ventilation by about 15%, but the actual drop in attic temperature was less than 1 degree Fahrenheit. That small change stands in stark contrast to the headline numbers from San Diego, and it comes down to the way most turbines are installed. The Deakin University team in Australia measured airflow from a single 12-inch unit at just 150 cubic feet per minute, barely enough to move the air in a modest attic and far below manufacturer claims. In their words, the effect was still air, not active cooling. These results highlight a common problem: undersizing. Many homes receive just 1 or 2 turbines, often installed without enough intake vents or in climates with little wind. In these typical cases, the device made only a modest difference, and the promise of dramatic cooling faded. The evidence from skeptical field studies and lab tests suggests that the gap between best case and everyday performance is wide, and that careful sizing and placement are essential if a passive turbine is going to deliver real benefits. Complaints about turbine ventilators began to pile up in the 1970s and the 1980s, especially in tightly packed subdivisions. Homeowners reported rattling noises as the ball bearings inside older models wore down, sometimes after only a few years of wind exposure. The constant whirring and clatter, amplified by roof decking, turned a quiet evening into a source of frustration for anyone nearby. At the same time, homeowner associations started writing bans on visible rooftop devices into their covenants, arguing that spinning turbines spoiled the look of uniform roof lines. In many neighborhoods, these rules forced turbines to the less effective rear slope or barred them outright, regardless of their performance. The backlash against noise and aesthetics set the stage for a new era of regulation and building codes. Attic ventilation rules are written in square inches, not in spinning blades or wind speed. The International Residential Code, section R806, sets a clear standard. Every attic must have at least 1 square foot of net-free ventilation area for every 300 square feet of floor. Ridge vents running the full length of the roof make this math easy. A typical 30-foot ridge vent delivers over 900 square inches of net-free area, enough to meet or exceed code for most homes with a single continuous slot. By contrast, even 3 large 14-inch turbines together barely match that area, and their effectiveness depends on wind that may not always arrive. Ridge vents also win favor with code officials because their performance is certified by area, not by wind-dependent CFM, making compliance straightforward. As codes shifted toward predictable, measurable standards, the ridge vent's quiet advantage pushed turbines out of the mainstream. A turbine ventilator makes sense for homes in hot, windy regions, especially older houses with minimal insulation, good soffit intake, and no restrictive homeowners association rules. Pairing a turbine with a radiant barrier can bring the biggest drop in attic temperature, but only if the roof gets steady sun and wind exposure. For cold climates, sealed attics, or homes with balanced mechanical ventilation, turbines are a poor fit and can even cause problems. The right setup matters. Without proper intake vents or in calm weather, the device does little. For those who meet the checklist, it remains a simple, hands-off way to cut heat and save on cooling. Subscribe for more evidence-based home tech stories. In the right climate, Bernoulli's Principle and the stack effect still give this device real, measurable power. Yet market forces and modern codes have erased it from sight. How many other proven low-tech fixes have vanished the same way? Next up, the solar chimney. Subscribe for more evidence-driven stories.